Turns out now, 3 fights into the UFC, Jacob Malkoun, the Mamba, deserves our respect. And he's not just Robert Whittaker's training partner, because the guy that we were expecting to see coming into the UFC, who got starched by Phil Haas very early on, ended up beating Abdulrazak Al-Hassan quite soundly. And he fought in his last time out the former Strike Hard Productions main eventer. That's a real callback. AJ Dobson. In the second, third rounds, you could easily give him 10-8 scorecards for those rounds because he absolutely dominated the action in the first round. He didn't, but he's going to be taking on now the former LFA middleweight champion, all in Brendan Allen, who's gone all in on his training. He's from Louisiana originally, then he went to Rufus Sport, and really it's a real going across America story. Now it's Sanford MMA. He's made the trip over to Singapore this week with his teammate Andrea Fialho, who's also on this card. And for Allen, what we've seen out of him in the UFC is a continued progression in his striking. We already knew how good of a grappler he could be. He's been taken down in some fights. He's also taken down many fighters in the UFC. And if I can go fight by fight, Matt, because people are going to do this, they're going to go, well, Craig, I went on UFC stats, and Brendan Allen's takedown defense is 50%, and I'd say, okay, but let's talk about it. Kevin Holland went 1 of 1. Tom Breeze went 0 of 1. Chris's brother, Kyle Dawkins went 3 of 5. Strickland went 1 of 1. Carl Robertson went 0 of 0. Soriano went 0 and 0. Then Curtis and Alvey both didn't try and take Brendan Allen down. Not a lot of people trying to take Brendan Allen.
And he won all but one of those fights.
Well, he's 6-2 in the UFC.
Well, no, but of all the people who had gone for takedowns, Sean Strickland is the only person to have been able to beat him.
Exactly. So for Brendan Allen, his ground game was always his bread and butter, but he's crisped up his hands, and you've seen that in his fights now. When he fought Sean Strickland, he looked confused by the striking, but apart from that, it's been the Brendan Allen show on the feet as well, with a couple of wrinkles, so to speak. But I look at this fight as Malkoun is also getting better with his hands. I know defensively leaves a lot to be desired, and he did in his fight against AJ Dobson, the longer, taller fighter, which is going to be every fighter at middleweight for Jacob Malkoun because he's at a disadvantage height-wise. But the weird thing is, we talk about this. If you're tall in a weight class, sometimes it can be harder fighting some of those shorter fighters, but you look at it, Matt, for Jacob Malkoun, always fighting taller fighters, he tends to put his hands out and his head back, and that's tough. That's tough.
This fight for Jacob Malkoun is like this upcoming season for Tua Tagovailoa, and this is why. It's sink or swim. Like, if Jacob Malkoun loses this fight, it's pretty much it for the Jacob Malkoun train. Yes, he's young, but he has stumbled a few times. His win is over a blown-up welterweight and a guy who was making his UFC debut, and if he loses dominantly to a guy like Brendan Allen, I don't expect Malkoun to be around for much longer, but if he's able to beat Brendan Allen, he does jump up in the rankings quite a bit, and I don't expect him to get any spot in the rankings, but you get the idea. Wherever Tapology has him ranked right now, with a win over Brendan Allen, it will shoot him up quite a bit higher than he's currently at. But this is I don't want to say an impossible fight for Malkoun to win, but I do think this is going to be an extremely difficult fight stylistically for Malkoun, because Brendan Allen is getting better on the feet, but he's not a fighter that I expect going out there beating guys in the top 25 solely off of his stand-up. He can throw some kicks, he's got better boxing, but again, his bread and butter is on the ground with his offensive grappling, his ground and pound, and his submission ability. And I think he's way better at grappling than Jacob Malkoun is. And for Malkoun, I also really don't think his striking's on the level to where he can go out there and win a fight solely based from his stand-up. So at some point, someone's going to shoot for a takedown. And when this fight hits the ground, Malkoun has shown the ability to hold his opponent down. He has a very good gas tank, and I do expect him to have a very similar game plan from round 1 to round 3. But the highs definitely are not as high as what Brendan Allen is able to do on the ground. Allen hurts guys with elbows, with ground and pound. He does advance past a full guard. He will try to be very offensive with his own grappling. And that's what I think is the biggest difference between these two guys. Malkoun can grapple, but it's not the most exciting style to watch if we are being fair. And Brendan Allen, when he grapples, he is very active with his own offense. And I do think he can make Malkoun pay for being on his back. And I don't know if Malkoun can do the same thing against Allen, because Kevin Holland had Brendan Allen hurt and took his back. And Brendan Allen was still able to reverse that position and get a submission win over Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it from Malkoun, Gracie Grange in Australia. He is a guy that's training no-gi jiu-jitsu all the damn time. And his takedown entries, I mean, listen, when he took on Al-Hassan, he went 8 of 24, but he got over 11 minutes of control time, and it was good. It wasn't pleasant to watch. And then when he took on his last time out Dobson, he went 6 of 16 on his takedown attempts, 9 minutes, 17 seconds of control time. But that was round 2 and round 3. He was able to do all of that, accumulate it. And for Dobson, who was a wrestler, he just couldn't get back up to his feet. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get coming up out of this one. And I said Malkoun deserves respect. Matt threw him like half a bone.
I just think this is a really hard fight for him because of his strengths. All of Brendan Allen's overlap with them, and I do think Brendan Allen is exceptional in some areas where Jacob Malkoun's only good at. Now again, if Malkoun is able to get to the third round, Kyle Dawkins had some success with his longevity in that fight. He was able to look good later on, but I do think Allen's striking has leveled up considerably since that fight, so I think Allen can make Malkoun pay on the feet a little bit more than he was able to back in the Dawkins days.
Yeah, if you look at it for Brendan Allen, I'll put it up there. The guys he's training with at Sanford, yeah, Jacob Malkoun, it's a Robert Whittaker card if it's a Jacob Malkoun card, and it was supposed to be a Robert Whittaker card this weekend against Vettori, but they moved that fight. For Allen, he's training with Phil Haas. He's training with Fialho. He's training with, not Fialho, I guess Fialho's at 170, and I know they're over in Singapore, but look at that picture and all the 185ers that are there at Sanford. They have a whole room of 185ers, so it's insane to see that. You look at the odds here, Allen open to minus 190 favorite, minus 243 average on best fight odds. For Malkoun, open to plus 165, plus 196. We have a look at the topology votes. Surprise to us, they are to you. I'm going to say over under 85% Allen.
Over.
Oh, slightly under. Look at that. 835 total votes. 84% Allen. 34% by decision. 46% by submission. 15% by knockout. For the 16% that I'm Malkoun. 69% by decision. Phil Haas is in that room with Brendan Allen. He's going to tell him, hey, Brendan, walk across the cage and punch him once. He goes down like a sack of potatoes. I don't know if Brendan Allen's going to be able to do that, but I think Brendan Allen's going to be able to win the fight.
I like him a lot in this matchup. Again, Allen isn't necessarily the fighter I thought he was going to be. I had really high hopes for him, and maybe he is able to level up his striking to where his striking matches his grappling, and maybe we'll get a really exciting fighter moving forward, because again, he is only 26 years of age, so he can still get better at this stage of his career, but he does eat a lot of damage. Luckily, Jacob Malkoun's not the type of guy who can inflict a lot of damage on the feet, so I do like Brendan Allen in this fight.
Jacob Malkoun's also 26. He could level up. It could happen this weekend. For Malkoun, a giant opportunity. For Brendan Allen, I don't know. I don't know why he's taking this fight.
He needs the win, though.
He needs to win. Coming off a win at 205 against Smiling Sam Alvey. He's still with the promotion. He is. Big time opportunity. Both of us going with our namesake to get the win in this fight. Some big fights on the rest of this card. 2 title fights up at the top. Let's keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.